Pokémon Sword and Shield are the first mainline Pokémon games on console. This comes with a lot of expectations and a mix of improvements and disappointments. I hope it's fair to say that Pokémon Sword and Shield has been the most divisive game in the Pokémon series of all time. And in this critique, I'll be covering everything from the Goodra, the Bagon, and the Purugly. Assuming you'll forgive me for that barely passable good, bad, and the ugly pun, then I'd like to start out by calling out that Goodra is available in Pokémon Shield, Bagon is available in Pokémon Sword, but only in the Crown Tundra, and that Purugly isn't available in either game or DLC. It's not my favorite part of Generation 8, but we need to talk about the fact that we can't catch them all because all ain't all available for catching. And by this I mean that there are only 400 of the currently existing Pokémon that were available in the base game, with just over an additional 100 being brought back into the game with each of the 2 DLCs, the Isle of Armour and the Crown Tundra. Without the DLC, this is less than half of the Pokémon, and with the DLCs, it's just over 2/3. And after 7 generations of including every single Pokémon, it definitely hits different when the 8th game in the series breaks that trend. And this is the first region since Unova to have version-exclusive gym leaders, and Sword and Shield even doubles down on this. I personally wish the games didn't do this, especially when you consider the Champions Tournament, but I'll get into that more later. The only gym leader that doesn't really fit is Gordy, since Melanie having ice types in the Ice Gym in the Ice City makes a lot more sense than Gordy's rock types. The Galar region introduces Gigantamax battling. Just like triple battles, mega evolutions, and Z moves, I know that Gigantamax is likely to be the latest fad, and very likely will be completely unique to Galar. But as far as those are concerned, I think it's definitely one of the better gimmicks we've had in the past few generations. Gigantamax is way better than Megas and Z moves, especially for competitive balance. I wouldn't even mind if they kept Gigantamax in future games, but they're almost guaranteed not to. We should all know what to expect from Pokemon games at this point, and when it comes to gimmicks like this. It's consistently inconsistent, and at this point you just have to know that coming into new Pokemon games. Random encounters are now a lot less random, and you can literally see Pokemon walking around. Pokemon in the wild area being unbelievably overleveled during the early parts of the game is actually an unbelievably hype experience. It is so cool to feel genuinely overwhelmed when encountering an overleveled Pokemon, whether it be Onix, Vespiquen, or anything else. If you're playing online, the frame rate in the wild area just grinds to a crawl. The interactions with other players is also incredibly superficial. You can see them walking around and riding around on their bikes, but you can't see their Pokemon, offer to trade, or challenge them to battle. And for what? A package of spaghetti and sausages. What an odd design choice. Link codes are great, and it would have been even better if you could set a link code and then once your friend joins you, open it up to anyone, instead of having to play with NPCs. The online networking is so bad, and it's so difficult trying to connect to people's matches in time. Connecting and unconnecting to the internet is the only consistent way that I've found to reload stamps. I'm sure it can be fun when you have a dedicated group of people to play with online, but the AI for allies in raid battles is terrible. It feels as if Game Freak intentionally made the NPCs as terrible as possible. It would literally be easier to do this solo with 4 lives than having to be handicapped with these terrible AIs. Okay, Marnie and Beatty are great rivals. Hop, not so much, but he's a better version of How and comes with a great growth arc. It would have been great if battling Hop was more of a challenge, and fair enough, I suppose that's why Marnie and Beatty are here. It's great to see how Hop and Beatty both evolve as characters throughout the game, and it's wicked cool to see Marnie, Beatty, and even Clara/Avery becoming gym leaders. And it's cool to see Hop come into his own and become a Pokemon professor as well. Team Aether and Team Yell are easily the least interesting and compelling villain teams we've ever had. They tried to do this whole bait and switch with Team Yell and Team Aether, but honestly, neither team felt like they ever posed a meaningful threat or had any real control over the region. It just completely fell flat for me. And cutscenes leave much to be desired. Your player character often looks like an emotionless sociopath as you adventure through Galar with a blank and expressionless face. These almost made sense in the mobile games, but now that we're on console, it just really doesn't make sense anymore. I'm sure you're all already well aware of the infamous Zation animation, but it warrants being shown. Don't get me wrong, animations for moves like Pyro Ball are fluid and dynamic in a really wondrous and exciting way, but then you have moves like Double Kick that are a little bit less than underwhelming. And although voice acting would be nice, I don't really expect it from this game series. But I do expect good visual animations in its place to carry the slack. There are some nice quality of life improvements in the game that were long overdue. You now have the option to skip the tutorial. You're able to catch Pokemon right away. There's also now 2 daycares, which makes breeding much easier for competitive Pokemon if you use them right. Technical machines are still permanent use, which is really nice actually. There are some single-use technical records that you can obtain from raid battles, but overall, it's pretty great. Being able to access your Pokemon box at all times without having to visit a PC box is especially useful and convenient. This is actually a massive improvement, and I find myself using it constantly without it breaking my flow of gameplay having to rush back to a Pokemon Center. It's nice that we still don't need HMs anymore. The Exp Candies that you obtain throughout the game are actually extremely useful as well, and stand out as one of my favorite new additions to this generation. It's weird that you can't turn off EXP share, and it's especially weird here since previous games included the option to enable or disable this at your discretion. It feels like you're stuck on easy mode. Seeing Pokemon walking around in the overworld is magical. Being able to dodge around them is fun, even if the pop-in could be better. It feels like you're actually in a real world of Pokemon. Seeing Pokemon chase after you, and either choose to fight you or just stand near you with interest and amazement is such a delightful experience. I kinda miss that you can't see wild shinies in the overworld like you could in Pokemon Let's Go, but I get it. It would be rage-inducing if they despawned in front of you. In great contrast to the terrible AIs from the max raid battles, we have the fantastic AI from the Battle Tower. And the new rental teams mechanic is fantastic. Renting the slow team and Battle Tower doubles is an excellent introduction to how team dynamics work together in doubles without having to EV train your own Pokemon before getting a taste of the Battle Tower. And being able to bring your own Pokemon, including legendaries, is still an extremely welcome inclusion to the game. I admittedly spent a lot of time here after completing the core game. Competitive battling is now way more accessible than ever before. There are training programs to level up Pokemon's specific stats, there are mints that can change their natures, bottle caps to max their IVs, and in the DLC there's now even new hidden ability capsules. It has never been so easy to turn a zero into a hero, and this change comes especially welcome, and it now means that shiny Pokemon can quickly become viable for competitive play. And I love that you can make duplicate accounts on your Switch in order to play through the game again and again. This is the first time I've played more than one playthrough of a generation since Gen 5. This is fantastic for anyone with siblings or nieces or nephews, and it's great for nerds like me who want to play through the game again and again. We've never been able to do this before in a Pokemon game, and I like that the DLC carries over to your other accounts as well. Oh, and defeating a legendary Pokemon in battle no longer means that they disappear and cease to exist. I actually love this so much, you can now grind experience off of legendaries, and you're not punished too hard for being unable to catch a legendary before they struggle themselves into fainting. I actually love this change so much. This now means that you can chain legendary Pokemon for tons of experience points. And if they have their shiny available, then you can even grind for that now too. I really dislike that Zation and Zazamenta are shiny locked and that this is never actually explicitly told to you. I can't even imagine how many hours someone might have spent trying to grind encounters for that shiny before finding out that you can't even get it whatsoever. This is a weird thing to mention in a critique, but I actually got a shiny Regirock just by chaining, like it was the 4th one. It was insane. It was like one of the coolest experiences I've had in Pokemon ever. When's the last time you encountered a shiny legendary? It's insane. And just the fact that you can chain Pokemon like this is so cool. It is so sick that when shiny Pokemon follow you that you can see that they are in fact shiny. Although that does make it even weirder that the 2D sprites aren't included in the box preview. It sucks that they don't make shiny sprites for 2D. It would have been so easy. I also don't like that you can only get Zarude from subscribing to Pokemon's newsletter. What the heck? This isn't terribly different from EB Games events from past generations, but it's still really disappointing to see new legendary Pokemon stuck behind promotional materials and marketing ploys. Like, come on. I could tolerate the legendaries being locked behind events if it was only cosmetic. Like, if it was just the shinies, I could completely understand that. Having to subscribe to a newsletter or download and play the mobile game or previous installments just to get new legendaries in the new game just feels like such tiresome marketing malarkey. Okay, one aspect of the Galar region that I really dislike is that the region doesn't embrace their new and unique Pokemon. B's signature Pokemon is Machamp, Alistair's is Gengar, and Leon's is Charizard. They're allegedly the 3 most popular Pokemon in the region, and it's just like, seriously? Gen 8 has some of my favorite new Pokemon in a region in a long time. You've got Corviknight, Pataren, Centiskorch, Toxtricity, Surfetch'd, Dragapult, and Grimmsnarl, just for starters. There are so many hits, and it's without even considering the Galarian form Pokemon. Get Gengar, Machamp, and Charizard out of here! Come on! The 3 most popular Pokemon in Galar are 3 Pokemon that aren't even from here but Kanto. This is Tourism 101. Here, I've got quick replacements for you. Grimmsnarl, Phalanx, and Corviknight. How is the tourism department of Galar not promoting 3 of their own unique Pokemon as the most popular in the region instead of Kanto throwbacks? I personally really dislike that, honestly. I wish these new generations of Pokemon games would have the courage to stand up on their own 2 feet. The wild area is visually lackluster in general, and the berry trees for some reason have a different render distance than everything else. And they just seem to appear and disappear out of nowhere, especially when you're riding around on your bike. I don't mean to be nitpicky, but I actually find it really distracting. It's just weird. Rideable Pokemon have not returned from Pokemon Let's Go, and honestly, it's a little bit of a disappointment, but I understand. I would have loved to be able to hop on the back of my Dragapult and scoot around the region, but that's just not in the cards. These games don't hold up in comparison to other games on the Switch, and honestly, in a lot of ways, they barely even hold up compared to previous generations. There are some instances where Pokemon Colosseum back on the GameCube had better graphics and animations than this. The skip cutscenes function also doesn't actually let you skip any cutscenes, but it does prevent you from viewing your Pokédex completion certificate. This was extremely confusing and bizarre to me before and after I realized what was and was not happening. It's just kind of weird. Something that I think warrants mentioning is that I did catch them all this time around, and I don't think I've actually done that since Hoenn. I do think we take for granted a little bit the fact that there's 400 Pokemon in the base game, with 80 new Pokemon specific to Galar and over a dozen new Galarian form Pokemon. That is more Pokemon than even existed at the time of Gen 3's Hoenn. I just want to give the example that I love, Kanto, Johto, and Hoenn. They're 3 of my favorite Pokemon games, and all of them had less than 400 total Pokemon even in the national dex. And although I do think that all Pokemon, and the ability to have them follow behind you, should have been included in the base game, I do think a certain level of appreciation has to come with the way that all of these Pokemon are brought to life in Sword and Shield in their various interactions. Even though I personally wasn't the biggest fan of Pokemon Camp, I don't think there's any denying that seeing all of these Pokemon move and interact in the 3D space, especially out in the wild areas just like in Pokemon Let's Go, is a wonderful experience in Sword and Shield. It is delightful, and being able to see wild Pokemon in the overworld is great for chaining Pokemon for shinies as well. They finally changed Leafeon and Glaceon's evolution methods, so now you can just use a Leaf Stone and an Ice Stone. It's about time, and it makes so much more sense. It's also really nice being able to catch Pokemon like Machamp, Gengar, and Gigalith in the wild area since it saves you from having to trade and swap with another trainer. I was extremely thankful, with very few exceptions, that after you've beaten the main game that all of the Pokemon in the wild area scale up to level 60. This made it much easier to complete the Pokédex without having to grind too many levels for hundreds of Pokemon, and also made it unbelievably consistent to evolve Pokemon like Surfetch'd with unique evolution methods. As I was working my way to catch them all, my progress plateaued around 300 out of 400 Pokemon. There are lots of 1% and 5% spawns and even just Shield exclusives that I was thankful to be able to swap with friends. Part of me wishes I could catch all of the Pokemon in one game. And another part of me is equally glad that I'm able to experience this social aspect of the game with my friends. If I wasn't able to look it up online, there's actually quite a few Pokemon that I never would have known where to even find. Weather is actually a really fun and interesting aspect of the game in concept, and for the most part. But it can also leave you looking up guides online for Pokemon spawns, or having to wait day by day and hoping that you get lucky getting what you need where and when you need it. It would have made sense if players were able to control the weather somehow. The game already has moves like Rain Dance, Sunny Day, Sandstorm, Hail, and even terrain-changing moves like Electric Terrain. That would have been a much more interesting way to change the weather than having to just change the date on the internal clock and hoping to get lucky. Thankfully, you don't get banned for this and aren't limited from doing this in any major way, and the post-game for Sword and Shield is painfully short. So many Pokemon generations, especially from Gen 2 to Gen 5, have amazing post-games. Being able to battle and encounter past gym leaders and ex-champions is always a nice touch that I've always really appreciated, but we don't see any of that here. Having chance encounters with old characters is just the kind of thing that would help show that Game Freak loves this series and their characters just as much as we do. Speaking of the DLCs, it's about time to finally come back around and dig into these. I've been holding off on making a review or a critique of Pokémon Sword and Shield until being able to review the game with the Isle of Armour and Crown Tundra DLCs as well. I don't feel like DLC works in Pokemon games because my Pokemon are already level 100 by that time, so what's the challenge? I appreciate that you can technically get the 200 new Pokemon from the DLC through trading, but I wish everyone would acknowledge that they're sort of threading the technicality needle here. If you don't own the Isle of Armour or Crown Tundra DLCs, then you simply can't experience all of these Pokemon in their natural environments. And even if you do, you'll need to trade with a friend in order to catch them all. If it feels like you're cutting content from the base game and selling it back to players, it just feels so unbelievably cheap. I hope that Gen 9 has all Pokemon for the national Dex, without having to purchase any DLC. I honestly have no problem paying for additional content, but the two DLCs felt like they should have just been in the base game in the first place. I'm not sure what they would have called it, but I might have preferred if they had made a third game like Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, or Platinum rather than a DLC, but considering that I can start a new game on a separate profile, I kinda have that for free. The largest piece added in the DLCs, to me, seems like the reintroduction of the old Pokemon. There's a lot of new content added back in from an experience perspective, but this feeling of having to buy back old Pokemon still gives the impression of content being cut and resold back to players. This feels especially true with the Isle of Armour. Starting with the expanded Pokédex, I really like the convenience of having it split up into more manageable chunks, with the core Pokédex, the first DLC, and the second DLC. But it would have been great to have a Pokédex option for the National Dex as well. The new Wild Area, however, is a massive improvement to the Wild Area from the core game. This is a fantastic demo of what Wild Areas could be like in future games, and it comes with a warm welcome. That was, I think, the bulk of the value for the Isle of Armour specifically. The introduction of Galarian Slowbro and Slowking is pretty exciting. I really wish that they had taken the DLC as an opportunity to introduce even more new Pokemon. In the DLC areas, you can have your Pokemon follow you around, which is typically a lot of fun, although I do wish that this carried into the other regions of the map. I'm sure that this is just the first step of many of having this in future generations of Pokemon games, and in a lot of ways you can kinda look at the DLCs as almost like a tech demo for what Pokemon games will eventually be like. This next comment is definitely borderline on the side of nitpicking, but you can just sort of lifelessly push your Pokemon around. It's kind of fun, it's kind of lame. It definitely pulls me out of the experience whenever I have to turn around and push my Pokemon out of the way. Pokemon don't have AI smart enough to go around fences or basic objects. Again, I'm trying not to be too nitpicky here, but even with Pokemon like Spiritomb, it's adorable watching this thing move so slowly, trying to catch up with me. I just feel bad for him. But I have to say, having Pokemon like Scyther follow you around, 10 out of 10. This probably sounds silly, but I was so unbelievably hyped seeing this for the first time. Scyther is one of my favorite all-time original Pokemon, and being able to have him follow me around is just absolutely wonderful. And this is small, but the two new bike outfits in the DLC look amazing. This is subjective and superficial, but they just look fantastic, and I think it's worth mentioning. Some of the quality of life improvements are really nice in the Isle of Armour, but it is kind of a shame that they only exist on the island since a lot of these additions feel like they're stuck behind a paywall. Getting the EXP charm just for starting the Isle of Armour almost feels like pay to win. The Cram-O-Matic is really cool, and the ability to turn bottle caps into golden bottle caps is awesome. And I have to say, Clara has a lot of great animations, relative to the core game at least. It would have been nice to see this kind of attention and animation given to the player character, Marnie, Hop, and Bayday, but improvements are improvements, and I hope that we get even more of this in the next installment. Training Kubfu is a chore. It wouldn't have been as bad if I could have started the Crown Tundra as I hit this part of the Isle of Armour, but that wasn't out at the time yet. And restricted sparring is actually an interesting addition to the Isle of Armour, but there was nothing stopping me from self-imposing that challenge during the Battle Tower. I never really got into it, and I still think that the Battle Tower does the same concept but better. Maybe if it had rental teams I would have dug into it more too. And then there's the Frozen Crown Tundra. I have to point this out again, but the first thing I immediately noticed was the green berry trees sitting out like a sore thumb in the Arctic tundra. Like it would have been so easy just to make the trees at least have snow on them or something. Or like at least a different color like blue, I don't know. There's a lot of little details that just got missed. Sonia is wearing an open lab coat in the freezing cold and doesn't even have like a snowsuit or anything. It's ultimately not a big deal, but it just feels like there's been a lack of passion or resources from the Pokemon development team. Being able to see Pokemon like Stonjourner and Dragapult in the wild area is really cool, but it personally feels like a kick in the shins to me when I took hours of grinding encounters in specific weathers to capture these Pokemon before. Again, I can forgive it, it's just, ugh. That is specific to me completing my Pokedex before playing the Crown Tundra, and it's just growing pains. Garchomp is only in Shield? If I had known that before, I may have gotten Shield instead of Sword. Still, probably not, but it's definitely something I really would have considered. I'm extremely thankful to have friends with Pokemon Shield that are willing to trade with me. I think Calyrex looks pretty weird, but I love the redesigned legendary birds. And the new Reggies look sick, and the new horses are extremely powerful. It's a nice number of new legendaries, but again, it kinda sucks that you have to get the DLC to have them, and you can only get one of each Reggie and horse on each account. I am at least very thankful that I'm able to create additional accounts on my Switch in case I do want to have them all, and I'm glad that I still have close friends that play these games too. I wouldn't have been able to complete my Pokedex without them. The legendary birds also have, like, no story related to how they exist or why they're in Galar, the significance of the tree they eat from, or anything else. Playing the Pokemon dens with borrowed Pokemon is an absolute home run. I spent almost as much time here as I did in the Battle Tower. There's something about borrowing Pokemon and battling that will never get old to me. It's so good. It's annoying that you can encounter the same legendaries again and again instead of always encountering new ones, but the ability to pay 5 Dynapieces to get a new legendary is not terrible, actually. It sucks, and you don't even realize this at first, but a lot of the legendaries are locked behind Sword or Shield, so you have to play online if you want to be able to get them. It's really weird. It's just another one of those things where it's like, do we have to segregate every new Pokemon into one basket or the other? I also find it really weird that the DLC den doesn't explicitly tell you the shiny odds. The DLC dens actually have pretty high shiny odds, and they never tell you that all of the Pokemon are a guaranteed catch, or that you see their shinies at the end when you're picking them. This should be clear, since the regular max raids aren't a guaranteed catch. Dens and max raids would actually be a lot of fun to play solo, being able to bring or use all 4 Pokemon yourself. Although I get that this defeats the purpose of teamwork, watching your raid or den fail because your allies are completely inept at Pokemon battling is so depressing. Like, come on. Sometimes it would have literally been easier to solo this than to get kicked out because my ally couldn't stop dying and is in fact being a detriment to our team. And it's kinda lame that you can't see all the gym leaders in the tournament. If you have Sword or Shield, or both, you'll still never be able to see B with Alistair, or B with Rayhan, or Leon with Nessa, Bayday with Marnie, Hop with Peony. There are so many opportunities here, and they didn't even bother to add the text or options to mix these up. And the fact that trainers will only pair up with certain people and only have a limited amount of dialogue interactions in the first place make the interactions stale before you've even unlocked Sword or Shieldbird. It'd be nice to see them use different Pokemon based on their partner or even your active Pokemon. I don't know what exactly, but I just feel like there's a lot of opportunity here. Variety helps a lot when you have to do this 15 times at a minimum before unlocking the final 2 characters. The AI also only Dynamax their star Pokemon, and each trainer can only Dynamax every other turn. And it'd have been nice to go in solo and play some genuine doubles battles too, regardless of whether it was against one enemy or 2. There's no denying that I love Pokemon, or that I've thoroughly enjoyed Pokémon Sword and Shield. I'll likely play every mainline Pokemon game that comes out from here on out till the end of the universe. But it's been a while since I've felt truly delighted by a Pokemon game, and that's especially apparent while playing Pokémon Sword and Shield. Pokémon Sword and Shield is like the middle stage evolution in a 3-stage Pokémon line. It's definitely awkward. It's definitely an improvement overall from the first stage, and it definitely still has room to grow in the next stage. And I love it, even for being this awkward in-between stage in the series. That said, I hope the next games are a home run the likes of Pokemon Crystal, Emerald, or Black and White 2. Pokemon feels like it's stuck in this annual winter holidays release schedule, and I understand it from a corporate perspective, but as a fan of the series, I wish they would take their time and really polish each game before it goes out for initial release. It feels like a letdown when the game doesn't feel like it has that wow factor. It's good, or at the very least, alright, but it wasn't amazing, which is disappointing. With Sword and Shield, it feels like Pokemon took 2 confident strides forward and 1 clumsy stumble backwards. It happens. And it's laid the groundwork for even better Pokemon games in the future. Even if this is somehow the worst that Pokemon has to offer, then it's still a pretty phenomenal worst. And the excitement of seeing new Pokemon in a fully realized console game was more than enough excitement to get me through Sword and Shield. But I may not be able to say that for Generation 9 of Pokemon if Game Freak isn't able to raise the bar for their next game. I hope that this is just the first round, and a road bump along the way to a fully realized 3D console Pokemon game, and not an indication of the future to come for Pokemon. That's it. That's my review, or my critique of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Thank you so much for watching this far into the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts, and I would appreciate it tremendously if you could like and subscribe. Liking, subscribing, and leaving comments down below help me out a lot, and I so appreciate the support. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope I'll see you again in the next one. That's it. Okay, bye now.